to the Locker Room, our new sports show here on SBTV. I'm Ben Zatuni. Joining me today are Joey Hitch and Chris Watkins. Guys, how are you?
Good.
Yeah, pretty good.
Ready to talk some sports.
Are you ready to talk sports, Chris?
Absolutely. It's been a little while.
Good, good. All right, so tonight we'll be talking about recapping some pointer sports, the NFL weekend, the start to the NBA season, and we'll start our new segment, What's Bothering You? Starting off with the Pointer football team. They won their last home game of the season on Saturday, beating UW Stout 35-28. Kyle Larson led the Pointers offense once again. He was 29 of 45 with 456 yards and 4 touchdowns. Larson, Logan Taylor, and Jared Pankow accounted for all the Pointers' touchdowns as the seniors went out on top with their last home game. Logan Taylor had a career day with 169 yards and 3 touchdowns. Pankow had 8 receptions for 140 yards and 1 touchdown. Guys, what did you take away from this game, and was this season a success?
Well, what I took away from it was the usual. The offense can put up numbers, and the defense, still making strides after a lot of senior turnover from last year entering this season. They gave up a little bit, but at the end of the day, they held their own and did their thing, and the Pointers won. Do I think it was a success relative to expectations with that senior turnover and uncertainty in the defensive, in the secondary, I should say? I would say part of it was a success. Now, obviously their season didn't end up where they wanted to be, but when you make strides like that, and it'll be another critical offseason, also with the offense kind of restructuring a little bit with the loss of seniors, but overall, making those strides they have, especially after losing so many guys like Aaron Carlin and others on defense, I could say that they had some successful moments for sure.
What about you, Joey?
Well, the seniors obviously led the team to victory this past Saturday. You and me were there during the game. The defense held their own. The offense kept up. But it could have been a larger margin of victory. The Pointers missed a couple of field goals here and there, and they stalled out a couple of drives in the red zone. And was the season a success? For part of it, it was. But then, even though they lost to a lot of good WAC teams, the top 3 teams, overall, I think it was a success, but I think they expected more of themselves.
Yeah, for me personally, I think it was a success. Everybody knows how tough the WEAC is when you have to go up against teams like Whitewater, Oshkosh, and Platteville, and it always seems that the Pointers always have them 3 in a row, and it always seems like they're playing all those teams on the road, although they did play Platteville at home and Oshkosh at home this year, but I think it was a success. They started out 4-0, and then like you guys said, they stumbled with those 3 games, but something that I think people might have forgotten is that they lost Christian Almonte for the season. Mm-hmm. He did so much for them in the punt and kick return game. He did so much with them offensively, running the ball and then splitting out wide as a receiver out of the backfield. And they're able to replace him with Britton Vernon, the senior running back there. I think he had a pretty good game on Saturday. He went out on top, and I think the season was a success. If they beat River Falls on Sunday, then they'll finish 7-3, and there's nothing wrong with a 7-3 record in the WEAC conference.
Yeah, a whole lot to build on.
Like I said, the Pointers finish up their season Saturday against UW River Falls with kickoff set for 2 p.m. The men's hockey team was in Minnesota over the weekend and came away with a win and a tie. They tied Gustavus Adolphus on Friday 3-3, and then they beat Bethel University on Saturday by a score of 5-3. Against Bethel, the Pointers got goals from Nathan Harris, Kyle Sharkey, Baxter Cantor, and 2 goals from Jacob Barber. Guys, what can we take away from this road trip?
Man, to come away unscathed and still be technically undefeated, or no loss at least, but you had that 1 tie. But that's critical early in the season, still getting your feet wet in a sense, but going out, playing 2 tough road games, winning 1, tying the other one. The offense still firing on all cylinders. We know, they like to get out and get some shots on goal and kind of keep that tempo up at a high pitch. But yeah, I think that's a pretty good start to the season, I would say. A bevy of offensive talent that can score. And when they get out in the front like they have, I think every single game so far they've had a lead, especially early on, like in that first period. It's tough for opponents to keep up with that type of tempo.
What about you, Joey?
Yeah, I agree with Chris. They're lucky to get unscathed on the trip. Well, it's a good way to get the freshmen and the incoming transfer players to get their feet wet, and it kept them championship favorites early in the season.
With that being said, do you think Do you think they are national championship favorites again this season?
Well, yeah, they've been there 3 straight years, so why not make it a 4th?
What about you, Chris?
Yeah, it's hard to stop somebody when you're averaging a little under 5 goals a game. So that offense is definitely going to propel them into national championship contention once again.
Yeah, I agree with both you guys. I mean, one thing it showed me is that if they come off a tie like they did on Friday, or if they do lose the season coming off a loss, they'll be able to rebound and forget everything, put it in the back of their head. And then another thing that I think that's going to help them a lot this season is the fact that they have 2 good goaltenders, Max Milosik, who's primarily going to be the starter, and then Gordichuk, who was a backup and got the win on Saturday. That's going to help them a lot. And the fact that they always find, the past couple seasons, they've always had 1 or 2 freshmen or transfers that come in and score right away. I mean, last weekend it was Kelly O'Brien with his hat trick. I mean, this weekend you have Baxter Cantor, and then Nathan Harris is picking up where he left off last season. So I really think that this is going to be a really special season for the hockey team, and I'm definitely excited to see where it goes.
Yeah, definitely.
Now moving on to women's hockey, they were also in Minnesota over the weekend. On Friday, they lost to Concordia Moorhead. The Pointers got their lone goal from Meredith Ingbretson. On Saturday, the Pointers then tied against Concordia Moorhead by a score of 3-3. The Pointers got their 3 goals courtesy of Kara Lemerand and 2 goals from Ali Biagini. What does this team have to do to find some sort of success this season?
I think they just have to refocus after the rough start of the season. Just stay positive. The seniors just gotta keep the freshmen and the lower class players. Just stay positive. It's very early. They can come back, and they need to lean on the seniors and the leadership from Coach Ann Needman.
What do you think, Chris?
I think they just have to find their stride offensively. Very inconsistent thus far. Scored as little as 0 goals, scored as many as 5. I think they had 1 and then a 3-goal game in between there. So you average that up. It's a little like having around 2.25 goals per game. The defense is actually doing pretty well. Goaltending, only averaging about 2.5 points against them. So particularly, Allie needs, I think, a bit of help offensively consistently. I know she had a couple goals last game, had an assist in another one. So she needs Meredith and Maddie Monroe and Kara and all those guys, or ladies, I should say, to kind of pitch in and make it a collaborative effort more nights than not, and I think they'll be okay.
Yeah, I think the past couple of seasons they've hit the peaks and then they've hit the valleys, and that's kind of what's derailed their season. I mean, they'll go on these runs right before tournament time, and for some reason they can never get past River Falls.
Yeah.
And the Pointers, or the WEAC, only has 1 berth into the tournament. So if you lose the River Falls in the conference tournament, then that pretty much derails your season from there. But I think they're a young team. They lost a couple good seniors from last year, but I think you can expect them to definitely be competitive, and I won't be surprised if it comes down to them and River Falls for the conference title and the tournament title of the season, as always.
Yeah, hopefully time to right some wrongs.
Now moving on to volleyball, the Pointers volleyball team lost in the semifinals of the WEAC tournament to eventual champion UW Whitewater 3-2. Bree Pippenbrook was named WEAC Defensive Player of the Year. Pippenbrook, along with Kelly Seflu, were named to the All-WEAC team. Ellen Drury was named to the All-WEAC Honorable Mention team, and Delana McCreary was named to the All-Sportsmanship team. Guys, yesterday the NCAA came out with their Division III volleyball tournament bracket, and the Pointers didn't make the tournament. Whitewater got the bid from the WEAC because they won the tournament, and then Eau Claire and Oshkosh and La Crosse got the at-large bids. Even though the volleyball team didn't make the tournament, would you say the season was a failure?
No, because you can't have that much talent and that many accolades like you just described and it be a failure. Even though you didn't get to the tournament, and that's kind of more so in the committee's hands rather than, the team to a degree, but the committee ultimately decides, especially with at-large. You can't really be 100% sure with that situation. But just the plethora of awards that those ladies had, is still something to be respected and something to be proud of.
Yeah, I went to a couple of their games. Their offense is pretty good. They have a very deep team, and they started off the season very well. I think they had like 12 to 14 winning streak to start off the season. The first half, they were unbelievable. I think they only had 4 losses by the first half, so it was not a failure at all.
Yeah, I think it was a little bit of both. like Joey just said, they started off with that however many
real high
game winning streak, which was great. And then once they started getting into the meat of their conference schedule, they kind of hit peaks and valleys more or less, and that kind of derailed their season. But I think you have to remember that they lost, 4 or 5 seniors from last year's team that were very talented, and this year they had a good group of freshmen and sophomores and juniors that stepped up and so that they can play on the court. And I think the future definitely looks bright for the volleyball team next season.
Yeah, much like the football team, a whole lot of upside.
Yeah, it'll definitely be exciting to see where they go from this. Well, we're going to take a quick commercial break, and then we'll be back with a recap of this past weekend's college and NFL action. Stay tuned.
Don't have a television? Don't worry. SPTV is available on demand at uwsp.edu/SPTV. Find your favorite shows on our website, plus links to all of our YouTube content. Stay up to date with SPTV news that includes information about campus and community happenings. And don't forget to like us on Facebook. We're SPTV-UWSP Television. SPTV. Let's make media together.
Welcome back, folks. The Packers lost to the Indianapolis Colts on Saturday by a score of 31-26. Aaron Rodgers was 26 of 43 for 297 yards with 3 touchdowns and an interception. Jordy Nelson led the Packers receivers with 7 receptions for 94 yards and a touchdown. In a game where the Packers never led once and the Colts scored just 13 seconds in, what went wrong for the Packers?
Man, deficiencies in all 3 levels of the game. You start, like you said, that kick return, Jordan Todman, to start the game off, and then, I don't know, it just seems like 12 just isn't really in sync. I don't know. I mean, the stat line is okay, not great for him personally, but it just doesn't seem right. And I don't know if that's because there's like a lack of a running game with Ty Montgomery going from receiver to running back, and now Davis being in and out in about as fast as a snap of the finger. Jordy Nelson coming off the ACL, Randall Cobb maybe not getting separation. I'm not sure what it is, but defensively, I know you guys haven't had, we could have played in Atlanta last week, as many players that were missing from the defense. So I think it's a collection of those things, but being that, it's mid-season, they're 4-4, it's pretty much an 8-game season now, so got to get it in gear and quickly.
What about you, Joey? What do you think went wrong for him on Sunday?
It first started off with the opening kickoff. You shouldn't just give an opening kickoff return for a touchdown, obviously. And the offense just started real slow. Chris said the same thing. It's like Rodgers ain't into it. The offense just ain't into it for some reason. It's very odd. Well, it doesn't help that there's no running game either.
Yeah, and then I think, obviously, I don't want to repeat what you guys just said, but that's basically what went wrong for them. They started off the game poorly. I think they were down something like 24-10 at halftime to the Colts. The Colts' offensive line isn't good. The Colts' secondary is even worse than their offensive line is, and Aaron Rodgers couldn't get anything done in the passing game. He overthrew Nelson a couple times. He threw a pass to Jeff Janis that Janis let bounce off his helmet because he still doesn't know how to catch with his hands. And I agree with what Joey says. There seems to be something going on with Rodgers. I don't know if him and McCarthy aren't on the same page or there's a rift between them. And then Mike Daniels went on the rant in the locker room post game. It seemed like he was the only one that showed any emotion after the game. But another question for you guys: do you think Mike McCarthy's on the hot seat?
Remember how in Philly when Andy Reid was there for so long, and after a while it just kind of seemed like the players just tuned him out? Like you keep hearing the same message over and over. Well, McCarthy's kind of getting up there in terms of tenure. He's been there for a while now, since 06, I believe?
Yeah, just about 10 years.
Yeah, so maybe you get to that time where the veterans hear the same thing day in and day out and they kind of know what to do, but the rookies are taking after those veterans, and they're kind of going through the motions in a sense because it's not a new message per se. And maybe it is time for some new blood in there. I mean, results are still there. Pack has been in the playoffs, I think, 7 years straight now. But, how good is just the playoffs compared to wanting to win the Super Bowl as they should every year with Aaron Rodgers at quarterback?
Do you think McCarthy's on the hot seat, Joey?
It's close right now. I don't know. It's Rodgers and him have been together ever since he came into the league, so I think Rodgers would like him to stay, but the way they're playing, I think he is on the hot seat.
I'll say this. I think he is on the hot seat, and if the Packers somehow make the playoffs by some unforeseen miracle and the Packers go ahead and lose in the wild card round or the divisional round, like it seems they have the past couple of years, then I think McCarthy definitely needs to be fired because the Packers are too good of a team and they have too much talent, both on offense and the defensive side of the ball, to be losing in the first or second round of the playoffs every year.
Right. You don't want to be an NFC version of the Cincinnati Bengals and Marvin Lewis.
Exactly.
For sure.
So some other games over the weekend. The Raiders beat the Broncos on Sunday Night Football 30-20. Your Panthers, Chris, beat the Rams 13-10. The Cowboys continued their streak of winning, and Dak Prescott continued his great rookie season, granted beating the Browns 35-10. And the Seahawks beat the Bills 31-25 in Monday Night Football during a controversial game. Out of the games I just talked about, or any games from the past weekend, any of them stand out to you, Chris?
I would say, even though they played Cleveland, just Dallas going in there and handling business like they should have. You knew it was going to be a big turnout, even on the Cowboys side of fans, with Zeke Elliott going back to Ohio and Dak Prescott. I mean, those guys, very young offense. That offensive line, you got, mobile blood at quarterback. You still have veterans in Jason Witten, Des Bryant, and Zeke just running that ball. That's going to be a tough offense to stop. Basic offense, but when you do basic things well, good things usually happen.
Well, I think it's the Raiders. They've been bad for a long time, but over the last couple seasons with Derek Carr there, and with the receiving crew there, they've really developed into a very good team, and I think they are a threat to the Patriots.
Yeah, I'll actually agree with both of you. I know it's good to have some type of parody on the show, but I think the Raiders showed they're the real deal, and Derek Carr's a legitimate MVP candidate. Amari Cooper is showing I think he's going to be one of the top 5 wide receivers in the game. And I think Latavius Murray doesn't get enough respect for what he does out of the backfield. That's a good offensive core right there. The Raiders' offensive line is pretty decent too. Their defense is finally stepping up and showing with all their talent what they can do. I think that the Raiders are obviously the division favorite over the Broncos and the Chiefs. And anybody that knows me knows that I hate the Cowboys, but what Dak Prescott and Ezekiel Elliott are doing, that's something special. And I think that other teams in the NFC should take notice of the Cowboys. Their offense has been playing well, and their defense has managed to keep them in games, which is nice. So we'll see how the rest of the season goes for the Cowboys. Going back to the Packers, they start a 3-game road trip this Sunday when they take on the Tennessee Titans. Now on to college football. The Wisconsin Badgers beat the Northwestern Wildcats on Saturday by a score of 21-7. It's the Badgers' first win in Evanston since I was 4 years old in 1999. The Badgers' offense was led by Corey Clement, who had 32 carries for 106 yards and a touchdown. Bart Houston was 2 of 3 with 51 yards passing, and Alex Hornibrook was 11 of 19 for 92 yards. Guys, how good are the Badgers, and are they a legitimate college football playoff contender?
All right, so personally, the Badgers had me sold, even in a loss, that homecoming game at Ohio State. That was, even though they lost, just the way they were jumping the snap and just getting after it on defense, and the offense seemed, pretty well, given what they had. So I think they're pretty good overall. Can they make the playoff? They can, because they shouldn't lose another game when you play at home against Illinois, on the road against Purdue, at home against Minnesota, and then potentially against either Ohio State or Michigan or Penn State, but more than likely Ohio State or Michigan in that Big Ten championship. So, if a few other things go their way, like if Louisville or somebody else loses, Washington maybe, and they win out, sure, you could possibly see them in the playoff.
What about you, Joey?
Yeah, when they won that game against LSU for the opener, that shocked me. I was not expecting it at all. especially the Ohio State game, that one really solidified that they're a very talented team this year. And I think they are a legitimate college football playoff contender, but they're going to need help from Ohio State, Washington, Texas A&M, and Louisville, who are ahead of them right now. So they're going to need them to lose and drop down, but it's going to be close.
Yeah, I think obviously, like Joey said, that first win against LSU was big.
Yeah.
And that 3-game stretch, Michigan, State, Michigan, and Ohio State. Granted, Michigan State's pretty much fallen off, so that win doesn't mean much. But playing Michigan and Ohio State as close as they did, definitely, I think, earns the Badgers some bonus and some style points. I think the Badgers secondaries played good this year. The former Badger Jim Leonard's back. He's teaching the defensive backs to play the way he played, which made him so great. The Badgers losing Vince Beagle for 2.5 to 3 weeks. The Badgers losing Jack Sitchie in the linebacking core. They've been able to find people, Alec Jacobs and Ryan Conley, to step in and play well. And then I think T.J. Watts solidified himself as a definite prospect for the next level. The Badgers, they've had decent play from their wide receivers. I think one thing that's definitely surprised me is you look at their quarterbacks and you've Bart Houston and Alex Hornibrook. Right. It's not really anything to stand up and cheer about. And I always think that the Badgers are going to win, but you look at some of these games and they're like, man, are their quarterback good enough to keep them in this game? And somehow they have. But I think they are a legitimate college football playoff contender, but I think one thing that's definitely going to hurt them is their inexperience at quarterback play. I believe that Ohio State game, Bart Houston, he was either sacked or he threw an interception on that last possession of overtime, so that kind of hurt him. And Bart Houston got beat up, and he was running around all day against Michigan, which hurt them in that game. But I think they're definitely college football playoff contender. I think they're definitely going to have to win out, and I like their chances. I really do like their chances if they play Michigan or Ohio State again in the Big Ten championship game. It'll definitely be a good game to watch.
Yeah, all three. All they have to do is just make sure they don't get 59 in that Big Ten title game. But especially against Ohio State, they can just jump the line like they were doing and just reading J.T. Barrett's snap count. I mean, they were getting after him. I'm surprised the Buckeyes won, to be honest with you. So if they can do that again, who knows?
Yeah, it'll definitely be interesting to see how their season finishes out. If they don't get into the college football playoff, they'll definitely get a good New Year's Day bowl without a doubt. Yeah. We're going to take another quick commercial break. After that, we'll be back with a recap to the start of the NBA season, and we'll have our new segment, What's Bothering You?
How can you get involved with student media at UWSP? Connecting with your campus television station, SBTV, is easy. Like us on Facebook, subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow us on Vine, follow us on Twitter, follow us on Pinterest, follow us on Instagram, or connect with us on Google+. But of course, the best way for you to get involved and stay up to date with all that is happening at our station is to stop by our studio. We're located in the Communication Arts Center at UWSP, Studio B, Room 121. You can also drop by our office, Room 130, for more information on station happenings. We can't wait to get you involved. Come join us at SPTV. Let's make media together.
Got an itch to be on air? Join the SPTV News crew. Being an on and off air reporter will help you gain experience in interviewing, shooting and editing video, and reporting behind the anchor desk. Join SPTV News, pointing to you.
Welcome back with the NBA season. A little more than a week in, people are already talking about who are the hot teams and who aren't. In the East, the Bucks are 4-3, the Cavs are 6-0, the Hornets are 4-1, and the Hawks are 4-2. Now in the West, the Clippers and the Thunder are both 5-1, the Spurs are 5-2. The Warriors have started off with a 4-2 record, and the Pelicans are 0-6, good for last place. Guys, what teams have impressed you with their start, and what teams have you kind of been disappointed in the way they've started their season? Joey, we'll start with you this time.
Well, I'm impressed that the Thunder are doing pretty well without Durant. Westbrook's kind of taking over the role now since Durant's gone, so it's his show now. And then the Hornets 5-1. They're usually a bad team, but they've started out very well. And the Spurs are 5-2 without Tim Duncan. So they've done very well.
Chris, what about you?
For surprise, I would have to go OKC as well. Russell Westbrook, you can just see like just the demeanor change. He would be, kind of fiery towards his teammates, but now with KD gone, he's kind of more like that supportive leader, getting guys like Oladipo and Enes Kanter and Steven Adams, all those guys believing that they're assets to the team and not detrimental pieces. So I think Oklahoma City is doing very well. Also, another surprise. And it delights me to say, the Los Angeles Lakers, 4-3. Luke Walton, ladies and gentlemen. I mean, you just see the talent in just what everybody had been so excited about once Kobe retired. And I love Kobe, don't get me wrong, but him finally retiring has just signaled the new youth movement to come in and to just be free. They don't have to worry about anything. They're going to make mistakes. They're young. But, I mean, D'Angelo Russell's playing out of his mind, Jordan Clarkson, Julius Randle, all the Larry Nance just dunking on people and holding the back of their heads at the same time. It's a lot to be excited for in LA, Clippers and Lakers, I would say.
Now, going off what you just said, do you think it's a good thing that Kobe, obviously he's a great player, Hall of Fame player, no doubt, but do you think it's a good thing that he's finally out the door, retired and gone, so the Lakers can focus on their rebuilding process?
Yeah, for the sake of that team, this particular team, that personnel, yes. And then bringing in Luke Walton and getting rid of Byron Scott, thank goodness. It's really worked wonders. And now I'm not saying they're going to make the playoffs. They probably won't even win 30 games, but just for the foundational season, which this is for them, a whole lot to be excited about for the future.
I think, going back to what we started off, I'm surprised with how the Bucks and the Hornets have started out. The Bucks 4-3, the Hornets are 4-1.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that the Bucks are going to be able to sustain it. I think the loss of Chris Middleton is going to be a little bit too much, and they're not going to have enough scoring. They still have a little bit of a young team, but it'll give the opportunity for Malcolm Brogdon, their second-round pick, to get on the floor and show what he's made of. I like the way he's played so far, and Thon Maker played pretty well in his NBA debut the other night. But I'm really excited to see what the Hornets can do with Kemba Walker and Frank Kaminsky and Zeller on their team. I think that's going to be a dark horse in the East. As for the West, the Warriors are 4-2. I mean, they're not going to go undefeated this season, obviously, but I'm still pleasantly happy with how they've started. I think they're definitely the team to beat in the West. Now, would it be wrong to assume that it's going to be Warriors-Cavs in the finals again?
No. Not at all, because nobody has the firepower of the Warriors. Even with those two losses, I mean, the shot quality is just amazing. Guys have room to drive if they want, like Durant. If Klay Thompson's not going to be shooting 20% from three forever, Curry, we saw him break the NBA three-point record last night. Man, it's going to be Warriors and Cavs more than likely, unless somebody challenges LeBron out east, in which the Celtics, shaky start. Bulls, can't shoot. Knicks, no way. So, it probably will be Warriors and Cavs for, a third time.
Joey, what about you, do you think?
Yeah, they're the best two talented teams in the whole league. The West, maybe it might not be the Warriors, but the East is for sure the Cavs. They're the most talented team in the East. There's no one that really can compete with them.
Yeah, I think you guys are both right with the Warriors and the Cavs, but it'll definitely be interesting to see how, granted, we're just about 2 weeks in.
Right.
It'll be interesting to see how things go. Injuries happen. It'll be interesting to see if anything happens at the trading deadline. Sometimes there's coaching changes mid-season, and you see teams get they get more life out of the coaching change. So it'll definitely be interesting to see. I think it would be good if it's not the Warriors and the Cavs for the NBA, just to get a little bit of different flavor, maybe get a little bit of a ratings boost from people being interested and not the same old two teams.
Yes,
but it'll definitely be interesting to see how the NBA season goes. Now, folks, it's time for our new segment called What's Bothering You. Each of us has chosen a topic in sports, and we'll talk about why it's bothering us. Joey, what's bothering you?
Chris ain't gonna be like me for this one. Oh my gosh. What's bothering me is Cam Newton complaining every week about how the refs officiate him. Like, I understand, some of them aren't legal, but it gets old when that's all you see on SportsCenter every Monday.
Chris, you can have a little bit of a rebuttal time here. It'll be interesting to see what you say.
Because, I always thought when something's not legal, you should speak out about it. Nobody's going to care for you like you. So, if you don't say anything about it when you're getting hit illegally every single week, I might add, then, closed mouths don't get fed. And on the part of Cam, now I realize that, a lot was said about him talking about Ed Hockley and how he didn't get that call last year. And, of course, the celebrating and all that. And then just him being a freak at quarterback, like 6'5", 250, 260, kind of like a LeBron of the NFL in a sense. I understand you're going to get hit. You have to get hit harder when you possess those type of intangibles at quarterback. But helmet to helmet is helmet to helmet. And I don't care if it's in Denver, LA, Charlotte, Atlanta, wherever. When you get hit in the helmet, he deserved the one in Atlanta. I'll add that. But, I mean, continuously on, and then when you make a play about it, I just think it's a discrepancy there between the refs and the players, especially when they're coming out with the referees and saying, oh, we missed this call last week, and it's not even in the helmet, it's his legs now with Calais Campbell, so I don't know.
I definitely see both sides of the argument. I mean, going back to their opening night, Thursday night game against Denver, there were a couple hits that definitely were dangerous and should have been flagged, but it kind of goes back to last year where he was dabbing up and down the field, and he said, if you don't like me dabbing, then stop me. So when he runs out of the pocket, now people are going to hit him, and I think he has to realize that he does have a point that player safety should be the number one priority in the NFL, but when you decide to move out of the pocket with the ball, you're basically a free man, and people are going to take you down because, quite frankly, the defenses don't like you, and they want to knock you out of the game. But I definitely see both sides of the argument. Now, Chris, what's bothering you?
What's bothering me, we'll stick on this, but move away from Cam and the Panthers. The NFL officiating. Is it me? I hate to single out the Seattle Seahawks. They great fan base, they have tremendous players. But is it me, or has it been since every year from 2012 up to now, every time the Monday Night Football crew goes to Seattle, something the next day is in the midst of the controversy, whether it's the Fail Mary or Calvin Johnson getting his touchdown or the fumble being batted out of the end zone in that game against Detroit last year, or the game last night against Buffalo with Richard Sherman doing whatever, playing until the whistle, as he said. I just don't know. And I hate for it to seem like every time an opponent goes to Seattle in prime time, they don't have a chance. But that's really kind of what it seems like to me. I mean, the referees, whether it's replacement refs, current refs, it bothers me that they're missing this many things and then having to come out the next day and saying, oh, the officials are under scrutiny and there'll be disciplines in the future and we missed X number of calls. But, I mean, your professional organization, probably the lifeblood of American sports. Get it together, please, and thank you. Sincerely, me.
Chris, I definitely agree with you 110%. I mean, I don't think it's just Monday night. Going back to that Atlanta-Seattle game where Richard Sherman tackled Julio Jones on the Falcons' possession. That should have been a flag last night. Richard Sherman, about like 2 seconds before halftime, running into Dan Carpenter, the Bills' kicker. The referees didn't even know what the heck was going on the field. I think the main problem with the NFL not being able to hold the officials accountable is something that a lot of people forget, is that the officials aren't full-time people.
Right.
Most of them are lawyers. They have jobs during the week, and officiating, roughing the NFL games is really a part-time job. I think that Roger Goodell and Dean Blandino, the head of officiating, need to come up with some type of agreement. Either I'd like to see it sooner rather than later, or maybe during the next collective bargaining agreement where they have full-time referees, where they can hold them accountable and they can suspend them and fine them if they don't do their job. I mean, what's going to happen if officiating costs a team a Super Bowl?
Exactly.
Roger Goodell's saying the same stuff every week, that the officials they're scrutinized people, which is obviously true, but they definitely deserve some of the scrutiny, and I think some things need to change. Now, for what's bothering me, it's gonna sound like I'm a little bit of a homer, but it's the Packers. I mean, come on. You have Aaron Rodgers on offense. Yeah. You have Randall Cobb. You have Jordy Nelson. You haven't been able to do anything offensively. I mean, going back to before the season, they cut Josh Sitton, which was a shock. You put in Lane Taylor. People are freaking out what's going to happen there. Lane Taylor's done a heck of a job so far, and Josh Sitton's played maybe 2 games with the Bears, so it's nothing there. And then the secondary, they've been depleted. And yet, game after game, McCarthy always goes up there after post-game, and he's like, well, we have to make some adjustments, and then we'll be good to go. And then after the game on Sunday against the Colts, he goes up to the podium in his post-game press conference, and he says this was our best week of preparation. If it's your best week of preparation, that should carry over the game. If you're as good as if you're as prepared as you say you are, that should carry over the game, and that should translate into a win. And I mean, you hear the players in the locker room post game, and they're saying, yeah, we're disappointed, we're losing, and we shouldn't have lost, and we obviously didn't see ourselves being 4-4 at this point. Then do something to change it. And I mean, it's great to see that Mike Daniels actually gives a crap. I mean, him going on his rant in the locker room, that's good to see. At least somebody has some fire in their belly and they're willing to do something. And like I said before, if the Packers don't make the playoffs, or if some godforsaken reason they do and they lose in the first round, I think Mike McCarthy definitely should be fired, and it's time for a change, because they have too good of a team to not be in the Super Bowl every single year.
Hard to argue.
Yeah.
Very.
Well, guys, that's all we have for you today. I'd like to thank Chris and Joey for joining me today and giving us their insightful opinions, especially during the What's Bothering Me segment. I think that went very well. And also a big thank you to our technical staff and their hard work to make sure this is possible. Be sure to check us out on Facebook at SBTV UWSP Television, or follow us on Twitter at SBTV_UWSP. Also visit the UWSP homepage to locate all your Pointers athletic information. Till next time, I'm Ben, Joey, and Chris, and we'll see you on the locker room.